Have you ever noticed a painful pattern in so many families? A child grows up surrounded by the love, care, and deep sacrifices of their parents. They are protected, guided, and comforted through the early years of life. Parents worry about them, work hard for them, and often place their children's happiness above their own. Years pass. The child grows older. They become an adult. They build their own life, develop their own opinions, and begin forming their own identity. But then something unexpected happens. The very child who was once protected and comforted by their parents begins to resent them. In some families, the relationship slowly becomes distant. In others, it turns into tension, silence, or even blame. And this raises a painful question. Why do some children grow up and turn against the very people who raised them? According to the famous psychologist Carl Jung, the answer may lie much deeper than simple anger or rebellion. Jung believed that many conflicts between parents and adult children are rooted in something hidden deep within the human mind, something he called the shadow. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves that we suppress, ignore, or refuse to acknowledge. These are the emotions, memories, and traits that we push away because they make us uncomfortable. As children, we often see our parents as almost perfect. They seem strong, wise, and capable of handling everything. But as we grow older, that image slowly changes. We begin to notice things we never questioned before: their mistakes, their weaknesses, their moments of anger, fear, or confusion. And suddenly, we realize something important. Our parents were never perfect. They were simply human beings trying to figure life out just like we are. This realization can begin a painful process. As adults, we often start re-examining our entire childhood through a new perspective. A comment once made by a parent during a stressful moment, a misunderstanding during a family argument, or a time when we felt misunderstood or emotionally unseen. At the time, those moments might have seemed small, but as years pass, they can begin to feel heavier. What once seemed like discipline may now feel like control. What once felt like protection may now feel like restriction. Slowly, a story begins forming in our minds. A story where our current struggles, insecurities, or frustrations are connected to our parents' past actions. But Carl Jung suggested something even deeper. He believed that human beings often project their own unresolved emotions onto others. When we face disappointments in our own lives, whether in our careers, relationships, or sense of identity, it can be incredibly uncomfortable to look inward. It is much easier to look backward, to say, I am this way because of them. By turning our parents into the villains of our personal story, we temporarily escape the difficult task of confronting our own shadow. But there is another side to the story that is often forgotten. To truly understand our parents, we must also understand where they came from. They did not enter our lives as perfect people. They arrived carrying the weight of their own childhoods, their own fears, their own insecurities, their own emotional wounds. Most parents raise their children the only way they know how, often repeating patterns they themselves experienced growing up. Sometimes they try to break those patterns, sometimes they unknowingly repeat them. But in most cases, they are simply doing the best they can with the understanding they have. When we begin to see this, something changes. The narrative shifts. It is no longer only a story about blame. Instead, it becomes a story about the complex human journey that every generation experiences. Because every generation is trying, in its own imperfect way, to do better than the one before it. And this is where true maturity begins. Instead of only asking, what did my parents do wrong? A deeper question begins to appear. What parts of my own pain have I never fully understood? This question requires courage because it asks us to look inward instead of outward. It asks us to confront our own shadow. But this is also where healing begins. When we stop seeing our parents only as authority figures from our childhood and begin seeing them as fellow human beings, people who are navigating life with their own fears, doubts, and limitations, just like we are today. And when blame slowly transforms into understanding, something powerful happens. Distance can sometimes turn into reconciliation. Old wounds can slowly begin to heal. And even if relationships are never fully repaired, understanding itself can still bring peace, because the path towards maturity is not about proving who was right or wrong. It is about becoming more aware of ourselves. It is about recognizing that we are no longer the helpless child we once were. We are adults now, and while we can't change the past, we do have the power to change how we understand it. We have the power to decide whether we carry the past as a burden or transform it into wisdom. And sometimes that shift in perspective is the first step towards true freedom. Before you go, here's something worth thinking about. Do you believe adult children sometimes blame their parents too easily? Or do parents often fail to understand the emotional needs of their children? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy exploring deep psychological ideas and insights inspired by thinkers like Carl Jung, consider subscribing for more videos like this. Because sometimes understanding the human mind is the first step towards understanding ourselves.